That shrub by your front door, the one you planted years ago and now cannot get rid of, is probably on this list. Almost every American gardener has at least one: a perennial you regret, you dig out in an afternoon; a shrub you regret, you fight it for a decade, with a root system the size of a car, seeding into your neighbor's yard. Half the shrubs stacked by the front door of every American nursery are sold precisely because they are fast, cheap, and foolproof to grow, which makes them impossible to remove. Some are now banned in multiple states. One on this list harbors the ticks that carry Lyme disease. And number one can crack the foundation of your house. 12 shrubs I regret planting. Late summer is when you rip them out before they set seed again. Number 12, Forsythia, the bright yellow shrub that lights up every American front yard for exactly 1 week in April, then spends the next 51 weeks doing nothing but being a giant green blob that outgrows every space you gave it. Forsythia is the definition of 1 week of glory for a full year of maintenance. Two problems make Forsythia a regret plant. First, it grows fast and gets massive. An unpruned Forsythia becomes a 10-foot arching shrub within 5 years, and every year you skip the hard prune, it swallows another foot of bed. Second, the tips of the arching branches root themselves anywhere they touch the soil. That is the plant asexually cloning itself outward, and within a decade, a single Forsythia becomes a colony spreading into your lawn. I will tell you my own Forsythia story. I planted my first one at my first house somewhere around 1992 or 3. I fought that shrub for the next 12 years. Every year, I hard pruned. Every year, it came back bigger. When I finally dug it out to move to my current house, the root ball weighed more than the trunk of a mature dogwood. I am not exaggerating. If you want the same yellow spring show without the maintenance nightmare, plant native spice bush instead. Same yellow April flowers, red berries for birds in fall, gorgeous yellow foliage, well-behaved as a 15-foot shrub, and native to the entire eastern half of the country. Number 11, Scotch broom. The yellow-flowered shrub that colonized the Pacific Coast highways from Northern California through Oregon and Washington because it is aggressively invasive, extraordinarily flammable, and produces tens of thousands of seeds per plant every year. Scotch broom is now banned or restricted in California, Oregon, Washington, and several other western states. It displaces native chaparral, alters soil chemistry, and the dense, oily foliage acts as a wildfire accelerant during dry summers, one of the top invasive fire fuel species in the western United States. If you have Scotch broom in your yard, this weekend is the removal window. Small plants pull by hand while the soil is still soft from summer moisture. Large established plants need a spade excavation. Get every last stem out. Do not let it flower and set seed again. One more season means another 20,000 seeds in your soil bank. Native alternatives that give you similar structure without the invasion. Native ceanothus in the west gives you the same shrubby profile with blue flowers and native bee pollinator value. Potentilla in colder zones gives yellow flowers on a well-behaved compact shrub. Number 10, Japanese spirea, the pink or magenta small shrub sold by the thousands at every American garden center as low-maintenance, ground-cover shrubbery. What almost nobody at the checkout mentions is that Japanese spirea is invasive across most of the eastern United States, seeds itself into every disturbed patch of forest within a mile, and gradually displaces native understory shrubs. Japanese spirea is officially listed as invasive in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Tennessee, and several other southeast states. The plant seeds prolifically. A single mature Japanese spirea drops thousands of seeds per season. Birds transport them into wildlands, and germination is high. Rip them out this weekend. Cut off any remaining flower heads first. A single mature Japanese spirea can drop 3,000 to 5,000 seeds if you let those pink clusters ripen through August. Dig the crown out with a spade. Spirea has shallow root systems, so removal is straightforward. One shrub takes about 10 minutes if you get the shovel under the whole root ball on the first cut. Then check the surrounding beds for the next 2 seasons. Every seed that already dropped will try to germinate the next spring. Pull the volunteers by hand while they are still under 6 inches. That is the easy window. If you love the pink flowering small shrub look, plant native meadowsweet, the American native cousin, or plant ninebark for a bigger native shrub with white flowers, red seed pods, and dramatic peeling bark for winter interest. Number 9. Winter creeper, the dark green woody vine that garden centers sell as evergreen ground cover or climbing shrub. Winter creeper is one of the most destructive, invasive shrubs in the eastern United States. It starts as ground cover, then climbs whatever it can reach, and eventually strangles mature trees by wrapping around the trunk and blocking light to the leaves. Officially invasive in more than 20 states, including Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Maryland, Virginia, and North Carolina. Birds eat the berries and deposit seeds miles from the parent plant. Every abandoned lot along the eastern seaboard has winter creepers strangling the trees. Rip up the mats where you find them growing horizontally, cut back everything climbing vertically, and physically remove any stems wrapped around tree trunks. Small root fragments regrow, so plan for a 2-year removal project. Native replacements for the same evergreen ground cover job. Wild ginger for shade, barren strawberry for sun, and part shade. Both stay controlled and support native wildlife instead of destroying it. Number 8. Privet, the classic hedge shrub Americans have planted around their yards for 100 years. What almost nobody tells you is that European privet and the closely related Chinese privet and California privet all seed prolifically through bird droppings, escape into wild forests, and form dense thickets that push out native shrubs across every state where they are grown. If you have a privet hedge, the hedge itself is the smaller problem. The seedling privet coming up in every nearby fence line, every unmowed patch of your neighbor's yard, and every wooded area within a mile is the actual invasion you are feeding. Removing an established privet hedge is a 2-weekend job. First weekend, cut it back hard to the ground with loppers. Let the stumps sit for a couple of weeks. Second weekend, dig the crowns out with a garden fork. Privet roots are tough but not deep, so a fork gets under them cleanly if you rock it back and forth. Do not try to pull with a chain. You will break the roots and leave fragments that resprout. Then walk your property line every spring for the next 3 years and pull every seedling volunteer while they still come up with a flick of a wrist. Rip out privet hedges and replace with a native inkberry holly hedge. Same dense evergreen shape, native to the eastern U.S. Birds get to eat berries safely, and zero invasion pressure. If you want a taller windbreak, plant native arbor vitae or American holly. Both give you the hedge function without the ecological cost. Number 7. Rose of Sharon, the late summer hibiscus shrub that gives you pink, purple, or white flowers in August and September when almost nothing else is blooming. The reason to regret planting Rose of Sharon has nothing to do with the flowers. It has to do with what happens after the flowers fade. Each Rose of Sharon flower produces a seed capsule that opens in fall and releases dozens of seeds. Across an entire mature Rose of Sharon shrub, you are looking at thousands of seeds dropping into your yard every October. By April, you have Rose of Sharon seedlings coming up in every mulched bed, along the foundation, in the lawn, in the neighbors' flower beds, and in the cracks of the driveway. The removal strategy is different from most shrubs on this list. Cut off spent flower heads before they mature into seed capsules. A single 10-minute deadheading session in mid-September stops next year's seedling wave. For the parent plant itself, dig with a shovel if you want it gone entirely. Pull volunteer seedlings the moment you see them next spring. For late summer pink flowers without the seed problem, plant native rose mallow or summer sweet. Both give you August to September color, and neither seeds itself into every crack in your yard. One thing worth mentioning before number 6. If plant once, come back forever perennial design is where you want to take your whole garden. The full system I use lives in a book at henrysgardensecrets.com. Long version of what this channel has been putting out. Only mention. Number 6, Nandina, heavenly bamboo. Now here is the shrub that most gardeners do not want to hear about, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Nandina, sold everywhere in the American South as heavenly bamboo for its bright red winter berries, produces berries that contain cyanide compounds. And they literally kill songbirds. The University of Georgia Veterinary School documented an incident in southern Georgia where an entire flock of cedar waxwings dropped dead after feeding on Nandina berries in winter. Necropsies confirmed cyanide toxicity from the berries as the cause of death. The cedar waxwing feeding behavior is what makes Nandina especially dangerous. Cedar waxwings feed in flocks in winter, and they swallow berries whole in rapid succession. A whole flock can strip a Nandina bush in 10 minutes. The cyanide accumulates faster than the birds can detoxify it, and the birds die within hours. Also, invasive in the southeast, Nandina is listed on invasive plant councils across Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and the Carolinas. If you have Nandina in the yard, the minimum action this weekend is to cut off every berry cluster before winter migration brings the cedar waxwings through. The better action is to dig it out entirely and replace with native winterberry holly. Same bright red winter berries, native to the entire eastern U.S., and completely safe food for the same songbirds that die feeding on Nandina. Number 5. Boxwood. The classic formal hedge shrub of American gardens for 200 years is now getting hammered by two simultaneous problems that have made it a maintenance nightmare, and in many gardens, a losing battle. First problem, boxwood blight, a fungal disease that appeared in the U.S. in 2011 and has now spread across the entire eastern half of the country. The disease defoliates boxwood plants, kills branches, and eventually kills the whole shrub. Once blight is in your soil, replanting boxwood in the same spot fails. There is no cure, only removal and species replacement. Second problem, box tree moth, an invasive moth from Asia that arrived in the U.S. in 2021 and has spread through the Great Lakes region and into the Northeast. The caterpillars strip boxwood foliage completely, and unlike native moth pests, no established American predator eats them. Every year, the range expands. If you have healthy boxwoods, watch them like a hawk for both problems. If you have blight or moth damage, remove the affected plants entirely. Do not compost the material and replace with a resistant native alternative. Inkberry holly gives you the same dense evergreen shape without the disease vulnerability. Dwarf yaupon holly gives you the exact same look as dwarf boxwood. Native alternatives are the fix. Do not try to fight blight and box tree moth. Both are winning battles across the country. Number 4. Butterfly bush. The shrub sold by the millions every year at American garden centers with a picture of monarchs on the tag. The marketing is a lie. Butterfly bush provides nectar for adult butterflies, but is not a host plant. Native butterflies lay eggs on specific host plants. Milkweed for monarchs, dill for swallowtails, and butterfly bush is the host for exactly 0 North American butterfly species. Adult butterflies feed on it briefly, then have no plant nearby to lay eggs on, which means no next generation. Beyond the ecological deception, butterfly bush is aggressively invasive. Oregon classified it as a Class B noxious weed in 2004 and prohibited most varieties from sale. Washington added it to their noxious weed list in 2006. A single flower cluster on a mature butterfly bush can produce up to 40,000 seeds, and a mature plant carries dozens of clusters. That is millions of seeds per year, wind carried into wild areas where they push out native flowering shrubs. 2 options. First, if you want to keep butterfly bush and live in a state where it is restricted, use only the sterile varieties specifically bred to produce less than 2% viable seed. Miss Molly, the Lo and Behold series, like Blue Chip Jr. and Pink Microchip and Asian Moon, these are the approved sterile varieties. Second, replace with actual host and nectar shrubs, native buttonbush for wet areas, summer sweet for moist shade, and native spice bush for a full pollinator solution. Number 3. Burning bush. The shrub that turns brilliant fire red in October was planted by the millions across America from the 1970s through the 2000s as the go-to fall color foundation shrub. It is now one of the most banned invasive plants in the country. It is officially banned from sale in Massachusetts as of January 2025, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania as of 2025, Maine, Connecticut, and Wisconsin, and is now on the invasive lists of 21 states total. Birds eat the fall berries, deposit seeds miles into wild woodlands, and every wooded area in the eastern U.S. has burning bush growing where nothing native can compete with it. The removal window is now, this fall. Small burning bush shrubs pull by hand when the soil is damp. Larger established shrubs need a spade excavation of the crown. The fibrous root system holds the shrub firmly but comes out cleanly with a full crown lift. Cut off any berries first so birds cannot spread them while you work. For the same October fire red color in a native shrub, plant native chokeberry. The brilliantissima variety gives you identical fall color, edible berries safe for birds, native to the entire eastern U.S. Or plant Virginia sweetspire for burgundy fall color, or Fothergilla for an orange-yellow-red multicolor fall show. All three give you the burning bush effect without the invasion. Number 2, Japanese barberry. The burgundy-leaved shrub with the sharp thorns that garden centers still sell as an attractive foundation planting, even though the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station has spent the last 2 decades documenting exactly how much damage it does. Japanese barberry is banned or restricted for sale in at least 15 states, and here is why. The plant creates a warm, damp pocket of air underneath its dense canopy that shelters black-legged ticks, the ticks that carry Lyme disease. Now imagine that on your own property. A 9-year Connecticut study measured tick populations directly. In areas with uncontrolled Japanese barberry, researchers counted 120 infected ticks per acre. In areas where the barberry had been contained through management, 40 infected ticks per acre. In areas with no barberry at all, only 10 infected ticks per acre. That is 12 times the Lyme-carrying tick load on your property if you have this shrub in the yard. Beyond the Lyme connection, Japanese barberry is aggressively invasive across the eastern half of the country. Birds eat the berries and deposit seeds into forests. Once established in a wild area, dense barberry thickets push out native shrubs and create the same warm, damp tick shelter that spreads Lyme deeper into the woods every year. Rip it out. Heavy leather gloves. The thorns are serious. Cut it back with loppers first, then dig the crown with a spade. Bag the material for trash. Do not compost. For the same burgundy foliage, without the disease vector consequences, plant 9-bark. The Diabolo or summer wine varieties give you dark burgundy leaves on a native shrub, no thorns, no ticks, and beautiful white flower clusters in spring. Before I get to the last shrub, one favor. If a plant in your yard has ever cracked a foundation, lifted a walkway, broken a fence, or heaved a driveway with its roots, hit the like button. Every one of those stories is somebody who planted exactly what is coming up as number 1 on this list. Your tap puts this video in front of the next homeowner staring at a shrub they should not have planted. Number 1, running bamboo. Listen carefully. This one has generated actual property line lawsuits in multiple states because running bamboo spreads underground at up to 15 feet per year, exploits any crack in a foundation or walkway, and jumps property lines within 3 seasons. New Jersey passed state legislation making homeowners liable for damages when running bamboo spreads onto a neighbor's yard. Real lawsuits, real award money. If you have it, rip it out first, above everything else on this list. Cut it to the ground, install a rhizome barrier, and commit to years of excavation. Every fragment resprouts. For privacy, use clumping bamboo, native switchgrass, or arbor vitae. Never plant the running kind. 12 shrubs. And listen, the difference between a shrub and a perennial is that the mistake with a shrub cost you a decade to fix. So rip them out this fall while you can still see what you are dealing with and plant a native alternative that gives you the same look without the fight. If you only pull one this weekend, pull number 1. Foundations do not forgive. Drop your state and which shrub you are pulling first in the comments. I read every one.